In this part of the series on how to knit a raglan sweater, we're going to take a look at how you can pick up stitches around the neckline opening to knit the neckline ribbing. If your sweater looks slightly different than this, don't worry, it's supposed to. It's supposed to have no sleeves, but a finished body. And this is because it's easy when you're knitting sweaters top down to try on the sweater and adjust the length of, for example, the sleeves to fit you or whoever is wearing the sweater. And before you've knitted the neckline ribbing, the neckline could easily like pull and the sleeve would look longer than it's supposed to. So if it's possible, I would advise to knit the neckline ribbing before the sleeves. And so we're going to take a look at how you can do that now. I'm just using a 40 centimeter or short circular needle. You can use also a long one and knit with magic loop. So when I'm beginning to knit the neckline ribbing, I'm going to take the sweater and place it with the back towards me and begin to pick up stitches in this raglan stitch, which is the transition between the right sleeve and the back. So to begin picking up stitches, I just insert the needle in the first raglan stitch, or in the raglan stitch between the right shoulder and the back, like this, and grabbing my yarn. I usually just hold the yarn tail between the fingers on my right hand to try and avoid that it slips. And when picking up stitches, you just take the needle over and pick up the stitch, and then trying to loop that stitch back through the stitch where you inserted the needle. And I'm going to pick up one stitch in each of the stitches along the back. One stitch is one V, so this is one, and so on. You can really choose how you want to pick up. I've cast it on quite loose, so you can see that the first row will leave holes between the sweater and the neckline ribbing. So I'm picking up one row below, so not here, but here. And trying to do that all the way around. This edge will either be on the inside of the sweater or in between the two layers of the neckline ribbing if you're working it double, so it doesn't really matter. So picking up one stitch in, let's see, each of the stitches along the back. So now I've picked up stitches along the back of the sweater, and this is the raglan stitch in between the back and the left shoulder. Doing the same here, trying to pick up in a stitch which will leave a nice transition. So sticking to not the first row but the second one, and picking up one stitch along the left shoulder as well. And if you tend to knit looser in ribbing than you do in stockinette stitch, you can either skip a few stitches and not pick up in each one. Or you can use a smaller needle than recommended in the pattern to make the ribbing nice and tight. This is the raglan stitch between the left shoulder and the front piece as well. This is how the back looks like, the left shoulder. And I'm now going to pick up in this this shaped part of the neckline. Here you can just take it by gut feeling if you're more experienced, or try to skip or pick up 3 stitches for every 4th row or so. So I usually try to pick up in a stitch looking straight onto the sweater. My personal preference is that it's prettier to pick up in, for example, here than here, but it doesn't really matter. It's just details, and you get the hang of it either way and just work up your preferences. But here I would maybe try to pick up in the small stitch there and just see if the transition looks nice or if I want to move it. And this is really the trick of picking up stitches. Just try. For example, here I'm just picking up, seeing if it looks okay. I feel like this one is quite loose. I don't know how I managed to do that, but trying to just hide imperfections with picking up stitches in the right place is really a trick that works well, especially along the necklines. You really just have to try and see what looks best. I usually pick up maybe 1 stitch in each of the V's and then in between on every other. But you can just try and see what you think looks the best. And then at the front of the sweater, I'm picking up 1 stitch in each stitch again. Also here, just working 1 row below and just trying to make adjustments along the way to make it look good. It really just comes down to preference, and no matter how many times I've picked up stitches, I still need to just try and see what looks good. So picking up 1 stitch each here. Same on the other side. Let's see how this looks. So I think that I feel like it looks quite good. Maybe these stitches look a bit crooked. It's like a gap there, so I'll just try and pick up in the transition there again to see if I can manage to make it look even better. Maybe like this. When you work the first round, it's always easy to just pick up an extra stitch. If you feel like, okay, I should have 1 extra in between here, you can always pick up the strand of yarn from front and just adjust it along the first row. I feel like it looks better, but this stitch looks a bit weird. I'll try to fix that on the next, or the first round. And then picking up again, just one stitch in each stitch along the right shoulder until I reach where I began picking up stitches, and we'll begin to knit. As such, depending on the type of ribbing you are working, you'll either knit 1 purl 1, knit 2 purl 2, knit 1 twisted through the back loop. I'm going just regular knit 1 purl 1, and I'm placing a stitch marker to make it even easier to see the beginning of the round. So just beginning to work the ribbing as wanted, and when I reach a kind of weird stitch on the front here, I will show you how to adjust where you picked up stitches along the first round. Now I've worked ribbing along the back, the left shoulder, and until where I felt like the stitches got a bit crooked when I picked up. It looks like it's this one, which leaves a hole, and this one, so I'll try to undo them and pick up again. So it's these 2 stitches, and I'm just going to remove them from my needle and then take the yarn on the first round on my finger again and try to see if I can fix it and make it look better. I think I picked up here, so I'll try to pick up here maybe and see if that looks better, or if it don't. Let's see. Now adjusted a bit. I feel like they still look a bit weird, but maybe less weird than, maybe it's this one. I think I'll just try to not pick up stitch here because the stitches were quite loose. So I'll just purl that one and maybe pick up move this one instead. So it's really just trial and error. It's my technique or my philosophy when picking up stitches, and sometimes you just have to try a few times until the end result looks good. Let's see. I feel like that might work. I'll knit a few more stitches and see. So still this one looks a bit weird, so I'm just going to knit back and undo that one more time. And really this is just about trial and error, as you can see. I've knitted a lot of sweaters, but I still kind of mess this up sometimes. This one looks good, this one is crooked. Let's see if this looks better just removing it. and adjusting. I feel like that might look the best. And I'll just knit a few more rounds and check again. And hopefully it will be good enough.